Let's kick this off with barriers to career change, Jo. Let's hear from you, because you've made so many interesting career changes, and what's gone through your head with all of this?
Oh gosh, I think one of the biggest ones I hear from my clients, and that I definitely experience myself, are all the fears that come up with career change. I think that's the one that first comes to people's mind. The fear of getting into a career that isn't right once you get into it, the fear of failure that can come with that, fears around money, around job security, fear of what other people might think, and then fears around sort of confidence around skills and abilities and what might be possible, I think, come up for people, which is so natural because career change is such a big thing. We're thinking about changing a big thing in our lives, and our brains are ultimately trying to keep us safe. And so all those fears tend to be the first thing that flood into people's minds when they first start to think about making a career change. So that's one of the big things I really see lots of my clients come to me with. What about you, Jane? What are some of the big barriers you see?
What I found is there's something which I call like identity lock-in, where if you've been in a profession for a long time, you tend to identify with being a certain profession. You know, you're the marketing person, or you're the strategic leader, or you're in pharmaceuticals, or whatever it is. We tend to label ourselves, and then we start to identify as this is who we are. And if we're not this person, who are we really? And that creates a little bit of fear when people are thinking about making a change, because they just think, oh, well, what else could I do? I've spent so many years training to be a lawyer, for example. And, you know, there's the sunk cost when you've spent so much time, money, effort in becoming qualified. And then if you change out of that, is an element of guilt as well, because a lot of my clients, that when I was working, especially in Singapore, being dutiful children as well, sometimes parents, you know, have a fair amount to say about what they expect their children to be: doctors, lawyers, dentists, financiers, whatever it is. And then if they're making a change, they don't want to disappoint anybody else. And so that can be a barrier to actually making that huge leap. So that's something that I've found with a number of people that I've worked with, who just want to make a change, but they don't want to. There's the fear of failure, of course. That's one thing. It's like, can I actually do this? And, you know, will I be a disappointment to myself if it doesn't work? But the other one is, will I be disappointing other people when they've got certain expectations of me? So a lot goes on in people's minds, don't you think, Jo?
Absolutely. I really see that, particularly with the people who spent a lot of time and money and effort in careers like engineering and lawyers and people like that sense of identity and what they're going to go through, and the grief that can come with that as well, of thinking about all that's happened in the past and moving forwards and what next. I think for a lot of people that ties into that is the lack of knowledge that can be a barrier. I've got all these skills and experience in whatever they've been working in, but what else could I do with that? And 100 years ago, we could have written down all the careers there were on a piece of paper, couldn't we? But now I think there's probably a new different job role created every single day. Like, it's absolutely huge. It can be really overwhelming to think, well, I know I could do these things and I know I want to do this sort of stuff, but where else could I use those skills and that knowledge and that experience in a different way? And you'll see lots of people getting stuck with that.
Yeah, and identifying what the job title is, because, you know, there are so many different job titles now, and what do they really mean? In one of my clients where I do some work, I'm called an executive consultant. What does that mean? Absolutely nothing. Okay, an executive consultant. I mean, if it's a career coach or a facilitator or a trainer, or if you're learning and development manager, that makes sense. But if it's something that's a little bit vague, then it's very hard to be able to really identify where you want to go.